Hello, you're welcome to Fresh Off the Dome, your all-topic podcast, your killer no filler, your talk at nauseam till we're nauseous, other plug lines.
Other plug lines.
I am joined by once again by Jared Green.
Hello. We've been doing this a couple times this week, huh?
Been podcasting a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty fun. And we're joined by our new mutual friend Ashley Parrish.
Hi.
Hello. And this podcast is all about Mass Effect. It's in 7 day, coincidentally. Not really coincidentally. Like I've been wanting to do this for a while and just like didn't really have the people I wanted to. Like I did have people I wanted to, and like their schedules were weird. And like I remember this whole like monthly passions of with Ashley being on talking to Jarrett about this topic, about Mass Effect Andromeda. And I was like, yeah, I should bring these two on and have this conversation. So like, yeah, let's just fucking do it. Let's talk about Mass Effect.
Yes,
Well,
let's talk about Mass Effect.
It's funny you mentioned you wanted to do it, and I was like, well, I know a BioWare stan you need to talk to.
I'm glad. That is my brand. If someone needs someone to talk about a Mass Effect or a Dragon Age franchise, I want my name to be first on the list, and that's working out for me so far. So I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So like origins, like how'd you find the series? You go first, Ash.
I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, Mass Effect. We're not talking about Dragon Age. Okay, we're talking about Mass Effect.
Your origins with Mass Effect. I'm sorry.
you gotta be specific with that.
Yeah, that's my mistake. I'm sorry.
Game. I'm pretty sure. It was one of the games that my husband had for the Xbox, and I just popped it in and started playing. It's like, hey, you would like this game, and I popped it in, and I fucking adored it. Can we curse? Are we allowed to curse?
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, fucking adored it. Loved the game. And it was right before Mass Effect 2 came out, and it was and I remember the controversy surrounding it because you could like have sex with a blue alien woman and it could be lesbians. Oh my god, on Fox News and stuff like that. And I finished that game and I was just like rabid for Mass Effect 2. Like it was like coming out in like either like a little less than a year, and I was just counting the days. I loved it. It had so much fun. It was just random chance, like, hey, play this game. Fucking loved it. And that's consequently how I got into Dragon Age. And then, my life went to
shit. And then it ended. Everything I know.
That's funny too, because like it was somewhat similar with me, with Mass Effect. Like, God, like I can't tell you how many times I've rebought the original Mass Effect for like different reasons. Like, because like when I first got the game, it was like I listened to a podcast called Interactive Distractions, and like they always talk about Mass Effect, Mass Effect, Mass Effect, Mass Effect, and like they're like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then like I just like as soon as I got to the Mako part, that's pretty much I was like, I do not like this game. So I was like, fuck this game, and I returned it. And then like they kept talking about Mass Effect. I was like, I'll give it another shot. Gave it another shot. Bought it again, and then I turned it in again. Just never went back to it. Then I bought it again, and then like for some reason, like that was the when it just actually just clicked with me, because this was like right after Mass Effect 2. So like everyone just talked about Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 was like the biggest fucking thing in the world at the time, and like I was like, I got to like know what's so good about this series. So like I got Mass Effect again, and played it, and like I got past like the beginning of the Mako part, and then it was like, oh, I actually love this game. I adore this game. Like it was like something completely new for me. Like as far as like a game that can like that has choices. I think it's like my first game that I ever had like dialogue choices or something like that. And like never really changed my character as far as how he looked. I was always default Shepard. I was just fine with that. Mostly because like the character creator was not the greatest thing, and everyone looked ugly other than regular Shepard. So like I was always generic Shepard, and I was fine with that. And yeah, like I just love that game. That game was just like amazing to me. And like and then like I immediately got Mass Effect 2 right after that, and fucking like got all the DLCs at the same time as I bought it, and like played the entire thing, loved that. And it was like maybe like 2 years before, no, it was like a year before Mass Effect 3 came out. So it was like, and it was weird how much Mass Effect changed my life too. It was like around Mass Effect 2, because like I just kept replaying the series over and over again. Like probably like the grand total with like all 3 series was probably like 900 hours or something like that. I think the last time I checked, but that was like years ago. The last time I checked. It's like going through the series over and over again. It's like, and weirdly enough, I never really changed my decisions. Like I always like to do the same decisions every time. Other than like getting the Renegade trophies or whatever. But like I was always just like I always like play Mass Effect 1 a certain way. I was playing Mass Effect 2 a certain way. I was playing Mass Effect 3 a certain way because like I just like my story going through the entire series and like yeah. There's a great love that I have for that series. So yeah, Jared.
I came to Mass Effect pretty late actually. I didn't play 1 at all because I didn't have an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
I started at 2, and
you're better for it.
Played and when I went back and finally played 1, I was like, yes, I am definitely better for it. Because if I had started at 1, I probably wouldn't have played 2. Which is a shame because I think 1 narratively is pretty interesting.
1 is definitely the most ambitious of all of them.
Yeah, I just think the act of playing the game is more like convoluted than it needs to be, right?
Yeah, it gets it odds with itself a lot.
Omnigel, all the upgrades, all the weapons, all the armors that's like situated for like Turians, humans, and Krogans. Yeah, a mess.
Yeah, like why do I need to do all this? It felt a lot like I got into it because I was a big KOTOR fan. But I actually didn't even touch Mass Effect until I played Dragon Age Origins. And I was like, yo, BioWare's out here with the console RPGs. So, Mass Effect was definitely on my radar. And fell in love with it. Mass Effect 2 is great. Played 3. I went back and played 1 before I played 3. And I guess in the rumination of 2 to 3 and playing other BioWare games in that same sort of space, like Mass Effect had always become sort of a shining example of like what we can do in sci-fi. Because I'm also a huge sci-fi fan, and I always love sci-fi because you can tell stories about strange people, and have diverse opinions and lenses and characters without it feeling like you're making sort of caveats for them. Whereas you have to read into why a black dude would be at the walls in Gondor. They exist in, Middle Earth, but like, if you don't know that, it would feel like they're making diversity hires for Middle Earth.
Do you want to get into that? Because, bruh.
Even though, like, we know better, it's a weird thing to have to like defend. Where in sci-fi you never have to defend it, and in fact, people can be like the fact that a human is a different color is like the least of someone's problems in most sci-fi.
Yeah,
especially in this one. I fell in love with Mass Effect's opinion of what the future looked like for humans, and how the struggle to be relevant as a young race in the face of all these older races. And how menial our problems seem in the scope of it all. In like, even in the sort of giant, I guess, oppressive, encroaching end game of the Reapers, like, you can still find some real hope in knowing that humans and our earthly issues and our diversity issues and our racism issues and our political issues are so not important, like, in the grand scheme of things. Sci-fi is very good for that. Like, no matter, low tech, high tech, near future, far future, it's usually very good at keeping us in perspective. And I think Mass Effect's one of the best examples of it.
For sure. There's a lot of things like I think about with Mass Effect as well as like especially with the first game, I think like I said, like I feel like the first game was the most ambitious out of like all of them. Like there's like certain things like like having like dialogue trees and dialogue choices without it like necessarily have to go in the Paragon or Renegade. Like I always think about that time when you're talking to Rex and just like you know, like you're having your standoff of like you know, like the Krogan should be gone or not the Krogan, god damn it. Was it Vermire, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where Ashley puts the gun at him, and because I think you have to destroy the lab that might hold the cure to the genophage.
Yeah, but it was like cloning Krogans, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, like altered Krogans.
Yeah, and like I always remembered that interaction in particular because you can like go through that conversation and actually talk him down. You don't have to actually go to like a Renegade decision or a Paragon decision. Like you have a conversation with him. In order to have that conversation with him, you just have to know him as a person. So like basically just hear him talk, like go down and talk to him and hear his stories, have a conversation with him. Like in like you can see like in the most neutral way, even like his side and what you're presenting towards him, and you can make him understand because of that. And like I thought Mass Effect 1 in particular was like brilliant as far as that, as far as like a dialogue tree. And like you know, like in the sequels, it goes very red and blue as far as like you want to do Renegade, you want to do Paragon. But I feel like the first one in particular was very good as far as like the dialogue tree.
And it's interesting that you talk about that with Rex, because if you were to try to have or apply that same thing to the rest of the companions, everybody else, including the human, is just an info dump. Both, like Ashley's an info dump, Kaiden's an info dump, Garrus, Tali, they're all info dumps. But Rex is the only one who's like, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly what I want to tell you, and I'm about to tell you these old-ass war stories for like the next 6 hours of gameplay. And I think you guys talk about ambition as far as I think Mass Effect 1 is ambitious in terms of how it presents the world, but Mass Effect 2 and 3 are ambitious in how it presents to you the people that you work with.
Yes.
Because you got a lot more fleshed out characters in 2 and 3 than you saw in the first game at all. Like they're there. The little crystals that become bigger are there, but they don't become fully formed until late 2 and all of 3. Like the Garrus that we love as Garrus, like when we talk about Garrus and the Garrus that we love,
3.
He's not there until 3. You're absolutely right. Yep.
For sure.
And it took them building that that foundation from especially 2 to 3, but like throughout the entire game for us to get there. And that growth is what represented across these 3 games is what makes Mass Effect motherfucking Mass Effect. Like, you know, that inspires these legions of stands now 10 years later.
And I loved your example of the characters and their evolution, because an example of the great jump Mass Effect 1 to 2 made as far as the characters, not just fleshing them out, but like fleshing out how you experience them, is the ones that are still there from Mass Effect 1, Kate and Ashley. They are so fucking strange in comparison to the rest of the characters because they don't have the same personality. They don't have the same war stories. They don't have the same background. They don't have the same interaction with the world around you. They feel like they were made as infodumps. And maybe it's because I went to Mass Effect 1 later. I don't have the relationship with Kaidan or Ashley that that maybe people may have. Like, they always seem like ancillary to me.
Well, humans are boring, for one.
But some humans are. But I think, I don't think Jack is boring. No. I think Jacob is kind of boring, but I think you realize why he's boring. I think you understand. You get to understand why Jacob's boring. It's sort of a decision he made. I don't think Miranda is necessarily boring. But the two of them, they're just like soldier guys, and they are basically you. Like, they're the shepherd who doesn't have a player.
Oh, that's interesting.
I feel Ashley has a little bit of growth, especially like, you know, like the big thing about her in the first game was about like, oh, she's just a space racist or whatever, and like you know, like, and then was a person of religion as well, and like you see how she from at least 1 and 3, like how she like grew as a person as far as like, you know, like actually trusting her teammates, and like I guess what tolerance is not the right word, but like I think she actually like grew to love that crew. You know, like because I'm saying this as I'm thinking about like how she was in 2 and that little interaction that you had with her, and I was like, but like in 3, she felt like she became part of that family more than she ever had before.
Yeah,
I think
it's true.
Vega actually, the guy that they bring in for 3 is more part of the crew than the human, like the Caden or the Ashley that you bring in later.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I have bias and humans are boring, but I could leave them. We can leave if there was the option to leave both on Vermeer, I would have taken it.
So like I guess we're all in agreement that like 2 is the best one.
No, the best Mass Effect game is Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC.
Okay, I can
yeah, but that's only good if you played every other piece of Mass Effect. Like,
and what monster
content. Wouldn't? That's true. That's very true.
You almost didn't, Jared.
I would say 2. I think 2 is best. I think 2. I don't think 2 does everything as. I think 3 does a couple things better, but I think as far as
combat,
combat especially.
Oh yeah.
I think the points on the star are more even on 2. Like everything you can do feels rewarding. There's space to grow and all that kind of stuff, but the characters are great. The many ways you can interact with them and they interact with each other are great. I like the straightforwardness of like earning their trust by investigating them a little bit. It's very video gamey in that way. And I think if you were redesigning Mass Effect 2 modernly, you wouldn't do it so straightforwardly. But I think for the time, it's definitely easy to understand and easy to see a result for your action. It's just very straightforward. I think most of the characters, they're decked out for like actual gameplay is concerned. They have a great material benefit for like that matches kind of the way they feel personality wise. I think they're designed very well, both mechanically and narratively. And I think those things have the relationship they have together is great. Like the way Mordin fights in combat reflects how I believe Mordin would fight, would think in a combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, them using archetypes that exist for anyone. But I think the way they outline their combat archetypes and the way they found ways to apply them to their characters is pretty cool. And I love just the race for the suicide mission. Like
that was, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're like, well, do you want to be a part of the team that might not show up again? And then you just find the craziest dudes who are like, yep, that's something I can get involved in. And like, just that whole journey is something that's so interesting to me. It's like a great movie, but like a 50-hour movie.
Yeah.
If I'm being 100% serious and not just going with, what my heart wants me to say, yeah, I'd agree with you both that Mass Effect 2 is the best game of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Act 2.5, like right before the suicide mission with Joker, like everything from then on is like, pedal to the metal, foot all the way on the accelerator, just like a adrenaline rush to the finish. It's so good.
Yeah, like that. Just remembering that whole suicide.
Mission. Whole sequence is so good.
And there's so many ways it can go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, developing a strategy, mid-game to make sure you make your suicide mission work as well as possible is such like a harrowing experience. Getting there on time, like when it's about to happen, the time it takes you to get there. You have to choose, like, do I help Legion? Or do I just go straight to this? And if I go straight to this, is Legion going to die in this mission? And like, if I don't go straight there, are the crew members that have been kidnapped? Are they going to melt? Like, what's going on? Like, what do I do? You feel the stress of a captain who doesn't want to lose anyone, but definitely is going to lose someone.
Your first time through, did you lose anyone? I thankfully did not lose anybody.
I lost. I lost the ensign. She died.
Chambers.
Which, rest in peace.
Mm.
She like, I booted her down for a second and then she melted right after. And I lost, I think I lost Thane.
Oh, dang.
Monster.
And I was like, wah, wah.
I do not believe I lost anyone. I think I saved everybody, including the crew.
Yeah, same here. Was it because you made a poor choice?
I
Like,
believe I put him in the wrong position. Like I made him do something he probably shouldn't have done.
That actually was difficult trying to determine who. I mean, I know they give you hints as to what you should do. Like you should send like either Tally or Legion in events.
Yeah,
or
someone will like
biotic,
volunteer, and you're like, okay, maybe I should send them. But
but it's a little bit difficult when you have to like, who do you send back with the team, or I think who leads the second fire team? Like that's a little bit more difficult to push. I mean, you're obviously not going to make Thane, the biotic bubble dude, but like if you had to choose, or if you didn't know what you were doing, you wanted to send someone back with the crew, you would send Thane. And I think if you send anybody but Morden, like they have a higher chance of dying.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, and it would make sense. It seems like a good idea. Like thinking about Thane and thinking about what you know. Like he's obviously in a fragile health state, so you want to get him out of the shit as soon as you can. But that's ends up being a mistake.
I don't remember what I had him do. I think I had him crawl in the vents, maybe, and like.
I think a lot of people did that by mistake.
I know I had Zaid take the other fire team because I was like, you are clearly built for this.
I remember specifically playing that suicide mission, and like there was like you needed someone to like take the crew back, and like I specifically said Zaid because at the time I didn't like him, and I was like, like if you die I don't care, but like I'm pretty sure you'll let the crew survive.
I feel like you're made for this. You're probably gonna be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god, that's interesting. Like God, I'm just remembering this game. This is something.
Oh god, it's just that whole thing is just so good.
Anything that's like from the norm, or I guess not the norm is the wrong way of saying it, but like is it like did everyone like let the Rat Knight Queen survive and like like got rid of like the like the Reaper thing from
the Reaper baby?
I did it several ways because I played that game many times.
Okay, so
the first time, I'm trying to remember what I did the first time.
What is your canon run? What is the run that you accept as this is what happened in 2183?
I killed Rex.
Ooh.
Because he was fucking popping off, and like I love Rex, but like either I kill Rex now or he's going to do some Rex shit, and I had to do it. I know I saved the Arachnite Queen. I'm pretty sure I destroyed the Reaper thing.
Your Vermeer survivor?
Yes. That was, I think it was Cadian, maybe. I just literally picked. I didn't give a shit. I was like, I don't care. But I don't want to just kill you here, so maybe I should take you with me.
Red, blue, or green?
I'm trying to remember what decision I made initially, because I was definitely like balls deep in the conspiracy theory that I'm actually being
indoctrinated.
And I was like, motherfucker, this is a trick.
Talk about that.
And there's so much evidence. I'm like in Reddit, like fucking freaking out.
Those are good times. That's just pure internet good times.
I'm pretty sure I destroyed because I was like, nah, I can't trust this. Everyone's lying to me. This is all a lie.
Like we'll get back to that because like there's some things from that indoctrination theory that like that's like why it makes so much sense. But anyway, my canon run was definitely the Arachnite Queen survived. Romance Liara in the first game. Second game was Romance Tally, and that's my main squeeze the entire series. Got rid of the Reaper thing. Obviously, everyone survived the suicide mission. 3, God. Rex was alive, so like that whole thing, the interface was gone. And like my initial ending was the synthesis, because like it didn't make sense at the time either, but like it just seemed like I guess this is the one I should get. But then
it seemed like inevitable anyway, right? Like
but it kind of make you seem like that's the good one. It's not the good one.
Yeah, it's really not. And like I at the time I was like, well, I mean, Joker and Edie, I guess that makes sense. I guess this is the one to do, but like
I do like Legion, so like
yeah. And but then it's like it like for my canon, it's definitely like the blue one. I can't remember what it's called.
I think that's Control.
Yeah.
We can use it for good. No, I looked at the fucking Elusive Man. I was like, nope.
No, absolutely not. My canon run, Caden was my Vermeer survivor. I romanced him first.
And Ashley was my survivor, by the way. Go ahead.
Rex is alive. The Rachni Queen survived. Destroyed the Reaper. Romance Garrus in the second game. Pick Destroy. What am I missing? I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't think I romanced anyone throughout my playthrough. I played the default femship, and I think I romanced Chambers in the second, and she died. And I think I was like, I'm just going to be asexual in the third game. And I've played through since and like done different like romance trees since, but like my canon run is just a lonely fucking shepherd.
I think you can romance Liara in 3, like just like like not having anything based off anything else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, I think she might be the only one you could do that with. Yeah, let's fucking go talk about this indoctrination and everything, because like it's fucking funny, right? Because like with the synthesis ending, like especially with the synthesis ending, it's like. And like I remember playing it, I was like, this doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel right for a bunch of reasons. Then like with the
for all the reasons that the internet will tell you, and you're like, holy shit, this is what they meant to do.
I mean, because it's so funny because like it was like Saren, like it was exactly what Saren said in Mass Effect 1 about like, oh, humans and biotics and or humans and mechanics are supposed to be like one and stuff like that. And like that's exactly what Saren was saying in the first game.
We've been talking about this game, for the last 3 games. I mean, you saw the human Reaper baby in 2. So no, synthesis is not. It's the touchy, feely, feel good. Everybody lives one, but no, that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, it's the everybody lives one in the way like in XCOM 2 where the aliens actually won. And they're like, oh, good. You guys live in your sweet human society as long as you pray to the aliens every once in a while. And now I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
Synthesizing still means Reapers win. It just means you live on Reaper time.
Finish the fight. Destroy. That
right. I did all this shit.
Answer.
Thane had to go die and shit. Nah.
I mean, I like Legion a lot, so that's why I picked Control.
I feel like Legion would understand, though.
Yeah, probably.
I feel like you would too,
also,
actually. I was just thinking about that. You would. So would Edie.
And like, yeah, I feel like Edie would understand too. I mean, Joker might not understand.
Oh, God, we're gonna have a discussion about OTPs, but that's later.
Yes.
I mean, I'm steering this conversation, but like, does anybody else want to bring up? Like, this is just an open discussion about Mass Effect. So,
who is the best villain?
Ooh,
the Elusive Man.
Yeah, Tim is pretty good. The Elusive Man. Sorry.
maybe Saren afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. Tim is awesome, and that was such a great performance by Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Tim in 2 or Tim in 3? Tim in 3, I don't know.
I feel like both. Like, because I mean, in 2, he's not really a villain. Like, he is. We know he's an asshole.
We know he's an asshole, but he's not a villain.
He and I, we agree on the basic principle of what we're doing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He hasn't really turned until after between 2 and 3 when he gets indoctrinated. But in 3, I think it's great because you get to kind of watch the Saren change, but without the fear. Like, Saren was desperate and afraid and needed this, and was so willfully, so willfully embraced it because this is what he felt he needed to work. Where the Elusive Man, Tim, figured he had it under control. You have to watch this dude think he's doing everything right by himself. And that everything's going to plan, even when he's literally changing. Like, he still believes it's all within his control.
Everything is fine. This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. The room's burning, but he's sipping his tea and everything's fine.
Smoking a cigarette.
That conversation you have with him on the Citadel is like excellent.
Oh God!
I'm like, motherfucker, it's over, dude. And he's like, it's never over.
And then, like, he's slowly working on you, and your mind is, like, fucked up, and he's fucking with your mind. Is this before or after he shoots Anderson?
I believe this is after he shoots. No, because it doesn't like a bullet exchange pretty quickly. Like when he shoots.
I think he's making somebody. I think all three of you are talking, and then he shoots Anderson. Like Tim is giving his spiel.
Yeah.
There, and then Tim shoots Anderson, and then like you finish him off, and then you have that conversation with Anderson, and that's where Mass Effect 3 ends. Everybody, okay, pack it up, go home.
Like I remember, like probably my favorite conversation with the Elusive Man was like I think it was on the Elusive Man days, and it was like they were having Shepard and him were having an exchange, and like Shepard said, like we can like end this right now, like like we could really just like stop this whole fight if we work together. And he's like, man, it's not that simple. And he's like, yeah, it is. It's that fucking
it
simple.
Actually is. At any point you can stop this. That's why I like him so much, because he's the exact reason people don't trust the Reapers and don't trust indoctrination, because this is what you never know you're not in control until you're dead.
And he was so hateable.
Yeah.
Like he was so and him and Kai Lang, oh my god. They were
Kai Lang. Oh my god, I forgot about him.
Love to hate them. Love to hate them.
And Kai Lang is a different story, because Kai Lang embraced the change. Like he's like, this is gonna help me be an asshole.
Like he was 100% on the Cerberus Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Do you want to talk about any specific characters? Like, what do we all think about Jack?
I like Jack.
I think my initial opinion changed about
Jack
as I learned more about her, because I think that's the point. Like, Jack is supposed to be prickly, and that she pushes people away because she's so fucked up and doesn't really want to. It never wants to be held like accountable for fixing it herself. And doesn't want to bring anybody in to help her, figure it out. So if you work through the initial barrier, you learn that there's like a real person there.
Right.
I think Jack, when I played through the second time I played through, and I was like, time to find some love interest, I think she ended up being it.
Like her arc, as far as like her being love interest, is really good, actually.
If she had the best arc of a companion. So if you had to choose who had the best arc of a companion, I know like there's Jack and there's Mordin and there's Tali. Garrus not so much, maybe Rex, but like if you had to choose who had the strongest arc of development, who would you choose?
Maybe Javik.
That's an interesting one.
I have to actually think about that.
Yeah, it's a tough question, because I feel like I'm trying to remember like how they start up. And I think a lot of characters you do a lot with, but who they end up being aren't necessarily all that different than what they always were. Because I feel like for example, Miranda doesn't change much, but you spend a lot of time with Miranda. Same with Samara. Like I really like Samara, but she doesn't really have an arc.
No, she didn't.
She's just here for what she's here for.
I love Garrus as day is long, but he does not change very much.
Garrus, I think that's what Garrus' strength is. He's like always very reliable.
He just grew to be more charismatic through the games, I think. But
he did, but I think Garrus is here for Garrus shit.
Yeah.
And after being Archangel, he kind of has like a turn that never changes. Like that's his biggest turn, when he loses all his men and is like, shit, now what do I do? I'm vengeful Garrus for a second, but I need to, reel it in and turn this into something positive. And like he spends 2 and 3 turning into something positive. But I don't think he changes himself into something different.
No, not like the way Jack does.
Right. Yeah. I think Jack might be. I think seeing her as like a school teacher essentially is like a really big payoff that I was very excited to see. Like to see Jack kind of grow up a little bit. Not that she wasn't grown up, but she's turning what was like immense pain that held her back, and she only knew how to like manifest in destruction. Like she only ever expressed herself in like in war and using herself as a weapon. and she finally got a way to like have this outlet be a constant drip of sort of, I guess she gets to transfer all this like knowledge and this truth and this frustration and this hope and willingness to continue trying to make it better into people who desperately need it. And to watch a weapon become a teacher is always it's like a simple, well done sort of trope, but I was happy to see it work so well with Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like Ash said, like with Garrus, like I think Tally's the same way. Like she doesn't really have that big of a growth. I mean, she does have the issues with her father, and like even like her issues with like Legion and Geths in general, to the point like she pretty much doesn't trust Legion until like the very moment before he dies.
Oh God, Legion.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
But like that's my torch, my love that I have for that game is like mostly with Tally. In fact, I should even say this too, like probably like one of the most satisfying is my most satisfying moment is like my arc with Tally, as far as like that's partially why Mass Effect is so special to me, because like she was in the first game, and like like she was someone I wanted to like get to know better and like actually romance in, and like that ever really happened. 2, I got my opportunity, and then like 3 was like the combination of like this, like everything. It was like everything got built up from 1 and 2 to be in that moment, especially that moment with the romance, because it's like I'm fighting for my girl, I'm trying to save her people, and like there's a great moment with like the
build your house on the home world.
Yeah, and there was a great moment where like where she says I love you, and you say Keyless a lie. It was a very satisfying moment. Yeah, that's like one of the biggest moments for me in like video games is because of Mass Effect, because of all that. God, so this is something I've thought no one ever did, but like I've actually known people who done it. Like, do you know anybody who like shot Morton?
You know what? You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Anybody that's ever shot Morton, I probably would have unfriended them, blocked them, and called cops. Can't imagine it. Like, I mean, you do it for the lulls, but I don't think anybody has a cannon run where they shot.
Yeah, I can't find. I don't like. I think I definitely did it for like a trophy or something, but like, I mean, I can't even. No, but like for Renegade stuff, I can't think of a reason. Like, I don't know how I could bring myself to shoot Morton Solus.
Yeah,
and we haven't really talked about the genophage and our thoughts about it.
Oh, like, I'm just thinking about that whole arc, because like that's such like a dark thing that's like carried out through that entire series. Like, especially in 2, where you see like Morton's assistant just like dissecting Krogans and like that whole planet in general. Like, great, that was a great level, by the way. But like just like a whole race of people who are just like pretty much just like beaten and battered, and just like they just kind of just don't give a fuck. They're so apathetic to being like just being these war criminals, not war criminal mercenaries, sorry, for hire, and just like their whole society, like when you go to like Tuchanka and just like see the way they're living at, like everything just looks like it's just like post-apocalyptic on that land. It's just a really sad thing.
And it's incredible that it's such a and they make it such an important narrative, right? Like, this is important, like, and it's always important because this affected people, like
it influences
Clan Rex and Clan Reeve, like these people, like the Urdnot clan is like a people apart. Like, they have no choice but to watch, them suffer for sins of the past, and they'll be suffering forever. It's not like a city was blown up but they can rebuild it. Like, they are a race of people that could very well not exist because of something that they may not be directly responsible for.
This is thousands of years, like,
yeah. And some of them are old, but none of them saw this. None of them saw this particular event. But like, this is such and it spawns and is the crux of such cultural and racial divide amongst people who have to work together, because just like humans, like your petty squabbles are not as big as the task at hand, and convincing them the task at hand is bigger is such an incredible thing you have to always, and you're always being forced to reckon with. Like whenever you speak to a Solarian with a Krogan in your party, you know, like they hate each other.
Right.
And vice versa. And like whenever Morden or any other Solarian speaks about doing things for the greater good, you know that what they mean is something way more intense than what you might mean. And the fact that the entire council sits around and they have no choice, or feel like they have no choice but to accept this. Like, this is for the greater good. We've decided that neutering and destroying basically an entire race of people that we lifted up for our own ends, for selfish gains, is for the greater good. And they get to live in this half measure for the rest of their lives as Krogans.
Like the conversations with Morton about like the genophage, like that's like probably like the most interesting thing about like Mass Effect 2. It's just like him just like weighing on this like for the rest of his life, because like he created the genophage, and like just like you can see like he plays it straight for the most part, but like you can see like it just weighs on him so much.
One of the most interesting things about Morden and as a character beat isn't when, you know, had to be me, somebody else would have gotten it wrong, or when he sings. It's when you do his loyalty mission and you find like all these dead females that have been like vivisected and things like that, and he pops out with this like little poem like out of nowhere, and like you think that this guy is like the ultimate science dude, like he's been straight up and down logical cold, and then he hits you with like this almost religious kind of like remembrance for this dead Krogan woman, and you're like, oh my god, yeah, that's where you see how much doing what he's done with the genophage has affected him, and it's an incredible moment for him as a character.
It's probably his arc that's the most influential, I feel.
Maybe, and I think at least it has the biggest implications for everything else in the world, like because he's directly involved in like the biggest, you know,
because this will fundamentally change how the universe is again, just like when you uplifted the Krogan. Like, this is going to fundamentally change it, and unfortunately I don't think we'll get to see how, you know, so many years on, how has curing the genophage affected, you know, galactic society.
And I think the conflict about, you know, the very many angles of the genophage you see displayed in either text logs or conversations between characters about it really helps deepen and enhance your understanding of how these decisions get made, and that the people who make these decisions don't necessarily need to be monsters necessarily to do monstrous things. Like, you can find ways to like Morden Solus, even though he would probably do this again if put in the same situation.
Oh, for sure.
I think, you know, we had a conversation actually about in Andromeda that many characters lack that sort of pushback. Like, Cora is a character who like appropriates and assimilates Asari culture to a point where it makes me uncomfortable.
Absurd.
He's just a weirdo.
Especially that no Asari that in her presence are calling her out on it. Like, even if she never changed, the fact that no one has an opinion about it except me, the player, seems weird.
Like, PB will take shots, but no one will directly confront and say, hey sis, this is not cool.
Right. Like, I understand you're great biotic, you've trained with these people, you aren't these people. Like, we'll live 7 lives before you ever become the kind of people that you were trained by. And you appreciate the culture, and I'm glad, but you aren't the culture, and it's very important that you know the difference. And even if she rejects that and makes an enemy, I think that makes her more interesting. If you then embrace why she would feel this way, how she feels attacked, how she genuinely feels like she's coming from a good place, and this is just stuff she's learned, and this is just feelings she's gotten from her experience, which is a genuine, legitimate experience. But if you never pressure on it, you only get what me, the player, gets, and that's uncomfortable. And I feel like, you know, not every game should let you, or should be required to let you interact with and push back on everything you don't like. But I feel like Mass Effect specifically, it's such a narrative driven, character driven game, like does its best work when people are getting pushed back on their ideas.
And I think that's a failure of the writing in terms of that, as far as that's concerned, because we know BioWare is extremely receptive to their player base. They listen to us. They enact changes based on the ways that we feel. And you're exactly right. When you have something like that, especially something, this is BioWare. I mean, there's people call them like the social justice video game makers. You know, you can't have this entire character like Cora be BioWare and then have nobody call her out on that. So I don't know what that is, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
I want to talk about like characters that we didn't really connect with or didn't really like all that much. Anyone's like come in your mind that isn't from Andromeda? Could that be like the whole cast?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think I bounced off Andromeda's characters as much as I think I like to pretend I did. Because for the most part, I like those characters.
Yeah, I love Vetra. Vetra was like probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I liked Jaal. I liked Liam. I think Liam is funny.
Liam's great.
Because Liam's just here to fucking party. Really,
Liam has a great
he's out in space. He's never coming back. So it's like this is just what he's gonna do now.
He's a better Jacob than Jacob ever was.
Yeah, Drac is hilarious. He's a Krogan, so like Drac this is what you expect from our Krogans, I guess. I really liked Suvi.
She was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I always like when sci-fi likes to like when we're in a post sort of
post-God.
Yeah, post-God myth future. The people who still believe are the most interesting, I think.
A better Ashley than Ashley.
Yeah. Like the only characters I just do not like are Ashley and Kaidan.
I think you're absolutely correct. Like I even liked Vega and Grunt. Like
Grunt's
Grunt's awesome.
I don't know that Grunt is like life-changing, but he's hilarious for what he is.
Yeah. Like
once you embrace who Grunt is, and he embraces who Grunt is, like it's hilarious.
And Vega's good. Yeah, you're right. The human characters suck so much. Like even except Kasumi. I like Kasumi. She's funny.
Oh, Kasumi's awesome. Yeah. Jacob's probably my biggest like thorn in the entire series.
We got 3 black people talking about Mass Effect. Can we have a conversation about Jacob now? Please, like, what the hell happened here? Whoa!
I feel like no black people wrote
on the
Jacob.
Third game. Like, oh my god, dude!
Guarantee you know, but black folks wrote Jacob. Guarantee.
It's like this. Jacob seemed like the wise black dude without the wisdom, really. Like he's reserved and he's fighting for what he believes, but like that's it. Like he just happens to be just the most basic dude ever, and gave him like a noble mission and a noble background, but like nothing interesting.
And the father issues, good God!
Yeah,
oh my God!
Of course he did. Of course he has the single father issues, and I'm like, Jacob could have been anyone, like, or anyone could have been Jacob, I should say. Like Jacob, like he didn't have to be the character we see black dudes be in fucking everything. Like
and I feel like
could have literally he could have been a shopkeeper. I don't give a shit. Like he could have been literally anything.
They overcorrected in Mass Effect 3 when you find him on the Cerberus base.
Yeah, and he's fucking lit, and you're like, bro, what happened?
He done knocked the girl up. You know, you go AWOL if you romanced him, and he done like moved on, not so much as a letter, then got the chick knocked up. What the hell?
Yeah, Jacob's just out there fucking swashbuckling now.
Yeah, right. Holy shit!
God damn it! Ugh.
Damn it, Jacob.
Ugh.
And then Liam was the apology for that. Sorry. Here's this cool British.
And that's funny because Liam and Jacob, for the most part, are the same. They occupy the same role.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're soldiers that do soldier shit. Except Liam feels like a real person. Like being launched 600 years away from like the life he remembers, he treats it like he would treat it, which is like, I guess everything here from now on is bonus year, so I'm gonna do whatever the fuck feels right, which means dust off this dirty ass couch and drink a lot in my cabin because I'm a dude.
Hide
He's not a special dude, he's just a fucking dude. And it's cool because he's allowed to just be a guy. I feel like Jacob is never allowed to just be a dude. He's always like trying to check on weapons and shit. And not in a way that Garrus was, where he's doing all these things to keep himself occupied because he doesn't know what the fuck to do with himself. Like Jacob is just a guy who does this. And it's so disappointing.
But he likes to get loud and spill drinks on the Citadel.
Somebody in Montreal tried to find their black friend and like, hey, can I run this by you real quick?
Yeah, how do you feel about this? What if Russell Wilson was a fucking Mass Effect character?
She said if Russell Wilson was a Mass Effect character. Oh my god.
And like Jacob's Russell Wilson and Liam's future.
Oh, no. We like Liam a lot more than that. No, we're not gonna. If anything, well, no, we're not gonna disrespect like that. Liam deserves better than that.
And like my problem, like Zaid is a very basic character too, but I like Zaid because all he does, like he's here for one job, just to shoot people. And like and every time you see him, he tells you, he's basically telling you an allegory from another time he shot someone. Yeah, and that becomes like your relationship. He feels like a dude who lives here and does things.
Yeah.
He is a human Rex, and he's the only one who makes it out alive.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him. He looks like a dude who makes it out alive. He has like half a face.
Did you find his son in Andromeda?
No, but I heard you could. I don't think I played long enough to find a son.
I thought that was great. That was pretty good. That was a nice little nod.
I even I'd say Samara's a pretty fucking basic character too, but I think what makes Samara interesting is you don't know much about the Asari until you meet her. Like she's like a relic of the Asari.
Yeah.
So watching her work is like watching a piece of culture you didn't know about work.
She looks like a piece of culture for sure. Like she's got cheekbones for the gods. Loved her. I'm a little sad that they tease the hint of a potential relationship or hookup in the Citadel, but nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
hook up with Morinth.
Oh God, and doesn't end well.
No.
God, I had something and I forgot it. Someone else can go. I forgot something. I try to remember.
Who is the best character though?
Now we're gonna sit here for 3 hours and fight.
Probably Garrus. I would say Garrus.
I'm a big fan of. I like Garrus. I don't know if he's the best character.
I would agree. I love me. I love Garrus. Don't know if he's the best. That would probably.
I think personally, I love Arya T'Loak. But you don't see her much.
Arya's awesome.
I had only played the Take Back the Citadel DLC earlier this year. That was the first time I had played it, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" We were cheated out of her companion. Like, we were completely cheated. That was a goddamn travesty. That should not have happened. She should have showed up in 3.
For sure.
More than what she did.
Who was the replacements for Kelly Chambers in 3? I forget her name.
No, Shock was the doctor.
Because I liked her a lot.
She was good.
I think she became my replacement Chambers for my
trainer.
For my canon run. Oh look, Vincent. I think my captain has a fucking problem.
Edie's good. Joker. God, Joker. Yeah, okay.
Joker's pretty great.
Joker's pretty awesome.
Non-combat companions, who's the best?
Steve is pretty good, but like it takes a while for him to get like a good conversation with him because like he's mooring a lot. Steve Cortez, I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think for me it might actually be Steve.
Really?
I mean, we all should say Joker, of course, but it might be Steve.
I do
or
like
Dr. Chakwas.
Yeah, I do like Chakwas, especially when you guys get drunk.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Space Mom.
I like Geralt Vasnima.
Hot Geralt, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's
They were good.
hilarious.
Oh God, who was the guy from Firefly that they had as the Quarian, but they killed him off screen?
Oh, it was Nathan Fillion, but I forget his
what
name.
is his name?
Oh, damn it! All these characters has been so long.
And that's honestly, to me, what Mass Effect's biggest strength is. All these goddamn characters. Like, oh God, I could live. We could spend all day just talking about them, but I could live in that universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no idea who it was. Yeah, it wasn't Quib Quib. I don't think he died.
No, that wasn't Quib Quib.
Let's talk about Andromeda. Just in general. Like, how are we all feeling? Temperature?
Pretty goddamn frozen.
Yeah. I think the problem is like it felt like a game pretending to be the game it's a sequel of. Like, it didn't feel, it felt like it was doing Mass Effect things, but not in a Mass Effect way.
I like the combat. Beautiful combat.
I love the combat.
Gorgeous
I wish that
combat.
you could just do that again and just like try this combat again, because that was really good.
I'm not.
I didn't really like Ryder's like relationship with his like their father.
Oh, the collectibles, that should be something.
They like learn everything about his father in random collectibles out in the world. I'm like, this fuck.
That's something that's essential for the fucking story. Come on.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's an interesting concept, right? They're leaving like Citadel space and leaving the council and all the laws that apply there. So they're smuggling an AI out here, things that would be illegal over there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna live with the consequences, I guess, because we can assume it's gonna work because Alec Ryder is pretty sure it will. But what if it doesn't? Then we have another Geth situation again. Yeah, and like that's an interesting fucking threat to hang over everything else that's happening, this treacherous sort of, adventure. But I feel like they never really nail it. Like there's little sort of pop-up, I guess, experiences that like really that bring it into focus, like with the little AI rebellion on the ship. The people living there have feelings about this, and you get to know them. But like the great lengths to gamify this, to turn something that should have been a story that feels more cohesive and something you have to go fucking collect in the open world, was such like, I don't know, that turned me off to the whole process.
It's interesting because I feel like open world worked a lot for Dragon Age, but did not do the same thing for Mass Effect. I know a lot of people bitch about Inquisition's openness, especially coming off how linear and closed Mass Effect 2 was, or not Mass Effect, Dragon Age 2 was, but it's for something about Inquisition that just worked with that format that just did not translate into Mass Effect. Like, I could sit there and, collect shards. I know, blasphemy. Or do the Astrarian puzzles. I could do that. Or, go collect bear pelts or for some whatever bullshit. Doing that in the Mass Effect, even with Mako 2.0, just did not click.
Yeah.
The way that it was supposed to.
Dragon Age, the open worlds weren't too open, though. Like, there were maps that were very big, but not every map was huge. Like, it felt like a little region, and you can learn the corners of these regions pretty quickly. I think the problem with Mass Effects are with Dragon Age's open world, which translates into Andromeda's open world, is that there isn't like enough worth seeing.
Oh, it's just empty space.
It's mostly empty space.
Was filled, but Mass Effect was empty space. I see what you're saying.
And like, I liked Dragon Age 2 in concept. But I think the city felt small, looked like it was populated with lots of things to do, but didn't have a lot of things to do in it. Like it looked the role, but didn't play the role. I feel like Mass Effect believes it was doing, having this big open world, all these things to do. And just because like there's weird like hills you can go down and into rooms that weren't on the map necessarily, just because you can go explore and find things doesn't mean there's things worth finding.
Cause it's weird because like I think about like how I played Mass Effect 1, and like even though it was like the most basic shit as far as like driving the Mako around, going to the same plants that look almost exactly the same, and just like doing that cycle over and over again. Like I guess I felt more satisfied doing that than I did with Andromeda. It's just like in like there's arguably like more stuff in the world in Andromeda, but like it still feels so empty at the same time because like mining was not like a really good thing that I really got into, and I don't know, it's just like there's something about that game flow was just not clicking with me with that game.
Well, it's like we were talking about with like The Witcher versus like Assassin's Creed or Shadow of War, these open world games that have lots of side quests and like want to press upon you like the necessity of exploration.
I don't know what it is about The Witcher.
They make exploration interesting. Like
they do.
If you go out to an ancient, like a distant corner in any of the maps in The Witcher, there's a great chance you'll find something that was like wanted to be hidden from you. And either you find it and you take it back to someone and like, holy shit, what'd you find? Or it's a person, or like, why are you here? And it opens like this trail of quests to like, it might end in such a menial way, but the journey you took to figure it out was the thing. And once you get to the end of it, you're like, wow, I spent a lot of time on this, but I was there for every part of this.
Yeah, I think those connections where you go out and you find, and then you dig a little deeper and you dig a little deeper. I think those were the things that were missing in Andromeda. That are present in The Witcher. I think they're present in Shadow of War. Not really Assassin's Creed Origins, but I haven't had too many hours in either of them, so I can't really say for sure. But there's just something about the way I think a game is written and presented that makes the open world that they're all trying to do just a little bit more tolerable than anything else. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. I think like my biggest disconnect from Andromeda for me, like, cause like the thing, like the biggest potential about Andromeda for me, at least, it was like we can have Mass Effect 1 again to a certain extent, by like discovering new races and seeing like just seeing this whole new world and like in this whole other universe, and like what we got is just like pretty much a copy paste of Collectors and what you could say are basically kind of Protheans, and like those are the only two alien races. There's nothing like interesting like a Hanar there or something like just there's nothing really weird. Everything's like pretty much like a humanoid. There's you know what I mean? There's nothing like a Hanar. And
this is a great opportunity to do something like a Hanar, like something, or like a Volus, or something that's super weird.
Yeah,
but like that's who lives out here. Like, and and the fact that they double down on things that are easily, I guess, transferable to us, because as interesting as I found Jaal, I don't believe like any of that Ket culture or the Angara culture is like anything we haven't seen already. Like, and it's the only thing out there. Like, you got this far, and we found a way.
We came this far to do
and for the most part, like, yeah, and the most part, like, we understand that out here, people, we know that someone has figured out how to travel intergalactically because the Ket are here, and they didn't come from the solar system necessarily, or we don't know that. We didn't, but we assume they came from some other solar system and are here now. But in all these planets that we are rocketing back and forth through, the only people out here are Angara and Ket. Where in the same amount of planets, in the same scope, on the other side of the Milky Way, like, or in the Milky Way, we have so much a variety of species with so many conflicts and such an ancient history and rich history with each other. Like, it seems so strange to go all the way out there and see basically nothing.
Yeah,
and to give us the opportunity to do way more exploration to find basically nothing.
Well, Here's why I'm not gonna go too heavily on that. And I believe that we had this conversation the last time, Jarrett, you and I talked about Mass Effect. This is only Andromeda 1. Remember what I mean, yes, you're absolutely right in terms of like the richness of the world that we've created for this. Like that is lacking. I think they will have time to correct that. But if we talk about Mass Effect 1 and 3, Mass Effect 1 is the weakest of the three. That's period. Because they were just finding their voice. They were finding these steps. All the characters that we love are not the same characters that they are, with the exception of Rex. So this is their establishing point, and they established, and they didn't really establish that good. But Andromeda 2, they might establish a little bit better, and it might end up being, exactly what Mass Effect 2 was. So I'm definitely willing to give them the benefit of the doubt in that regard. We were expecting it to be Mass Effect 4, and what we ended up getting was Mass Effect 1, 2. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. I think my problem is there are 3 Mass Effects that already exist. Like, yes, they're starting at another beginning point, but it's not in a bubble.
Right. You're absolutely correct. That's also true.
I think Mass Effect 1 is so weird because there wasn't a Mass Effect before it. Like that was the first one. And it changed the genre.
And whatever mistakes that they had made, they didn't need to make again. You're absolutely right.
Like another issue for me with Andromeda, that's me personally, is just like this tone is just so weird. Like I think about like funny moments in the Mass Effect series and in the original trilogy. It's like, oh, they have like a GameStop equivalent in Mass Effect 2 or something like that, which is like hilarious. And like Commander Shepard is my favorite shop in the Citadel. That whole thing is just like a hilarious thing. And it's like it's a pretty dry humor, pretty dry straight humor. Nothing like, no one's really cracking jokes, even though we have Joker obviously, but like
there's no Conrad Werner.
Yeah. And then like with Andromeda, like I feel like my Control Writer is like he has to be like someone like a Nathan Drake or something that has to like be quippy and fun, and I just don't think that works, at least for me, in the universe that's like Mass Effect. Or am I just crazy?
I think it could have worked. I think everything is so attached to this failed sort of bedrock. I think like everything could have worked. It's just like, why do we need to make this a game that has to translate into an open world setting? Why do we need to think so big? Cut the size and the scope half as much and just focus in like a granular way. And I know why they did it, because EA wanted to.
No, that was my next question. Do you think they did this because they wanted to do this, or do you think they did this because our corporate overlords demanded that this be done? Do you think reading everything that we've read about what happened, the great catastrophe of Mass Effect Andromeda, do you think this game that was executed was the vision of these people, or was this something that was imposed upon them that they had to make do?
It's probably both, right? Like, I don't think it's as easy as saying they're making a game. EA is like, I'm gonna need you to open world that up and drop some loot boxes in that bitch, and I'll see you in 3 months. Like, I feel like there was definitely they probably wanted to make an open world game because that was probably part of the conversation to get this, like, the development started anyway. Like, we need to turn one of our franchises into an open world thing. And they're like, well, we can meet you halfway. But it's still sort of, I don't know that it does feel like at one point in the process it was turned into this, and maybe it wasn't built from the ground up as well as it could have been. Like, there are definitely things that feel missing or feel changed or feel just out of sorts that make you wonder, like, what was cut to make this work the way it works, or to try to fit it into a box while the process was already along. Like, who knows?
Yeah, like the narrative for that game is weird because, like, obviously it came out in a pretty like not finished state, but like it cuts so much more deeper for me. Like, just like the whole like I said, like the whole structure of that game. Like because I feel like yeah, you could patch the faces and like make it like the most beautiful game ever, but like there's like a fundamental like way of playing that game that I like from other Mass Effect games or just games in general that I'm just not getting from this game. Like it just doesn't feel right.
It was also late. This game was supposed to come out holiday 2016. I do remember that.
So I feel like it was like literally never destined to work. Like I feel like this was almost dead on arrival. It always.
Well, if you read all the the postmortems that Kotaku's and the Polygons of the world have done, yeah, you can pretty much figure that out. Like that's an all but a foregone conclusion. It sucks because BioWare is my fave, and it sucks to see people hate on them as much as they did. But this is not the first time that this has happened. Like this week, I think in later years that people are looking on Dragon Age 2 with a more favorable eye. But if you remember when Dragon Age 2 came out, nobody motherfucking liked it. Nobody liked it, and then they flip the script, turn it around, and gave you fucking Mass Effect or Dragon Age Inquisition. Holy shit! So they definitely know how to learn from their mistakes, and they've definitely come back from struggles like this before. Maybe a little bit harder now because they're focusing all their efforts on their goddamn Destiny clone that's pretty much gonna fail and possibly tank the studio. God.
Damn, tell me how you really feel.
But, God forbid. But they definitely know how to correct. They've done that before. We've seen it on more than one occasion. So I'm hoping that they'll correct. I just hope that, Anthem doesn't tank the fucking, game industry like fucking ET on the Atari.
The whole game industry.
And force EA to close, their studios. Like didn't we shutter a BioWare studio already this year? Like we've done that already. If Anthem doesn't perform like EA wants them to perform, and we know that EA already has no problem with just like, okay, fine, you guys are done. They'll do that to BioWare in a heartbeat. I bet they will. But oh God, please don't let that happen.
Well, I think like the success of Anthem has everything to do with how Destiny looks at that time. If Destiny still has like the post-game problems it had the first time, then anything could slide in and take it, I believe. And I say that knowing full well that the Division tried and failed. So that might not be all that true. But I think what's funny because EA or BioWare figured out how to like adapt certain parts of their games to the sort of meta development sort of mindset at large. Like when they opened up, the open world felt like it belonged in Dragon Age more than it did in Mass Effect.
Absolutely.
I think they did multiplayer very well in Dragon Age.
Absolutely.
I was very interested in that multiplayer. And not to say that Mass Effect isn't good either. I think that one's fine. But like, I was surprised that I liked Dragon Age's multiplayer.
Pretty
to
much.
The point where I wouldn't be surprised if that was BioWare's next game.
Oh God, don't
Dragon Age multiplayer, just a game that's that. And I think, and they even tried to do like the whole gacha game situation in Dragon Age, where you had to wait. Like they set up like build missions and had to wait actual time, and you could pay for like boosters and shit. Like they were playing the game really of the development game in 2016 or 15, whenever that game came out. So it's possible. It's just weird that like I don't know what they missed to make this work for Mass Effect.
They kind of did that with Mass Effect 3 as well. Because I remember
3 had the loot boxes.
Your galactus readiness or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to play the multiplayer to actually do that, which I didn't do. Because I had the stupid phone app. And I just kept doing that whatever dumb game that was.
Yeah.
Burning that meter.
Or I think if you didn't play multiplayer, you had to do a lot of work in the base game in order.
I did a lot of work.
I did do a lot of work. Yeah.
I was like
rough.
I did a lot of work. I was not going to play multiplayer in that game, so I did a lot of work.
Yeah, same here.
Which is fine. Hey.
Yeah, because like
that works. That trade-off works.
Like my favorite thing about Mass Effect was like the little insignificant thing that I did. And that's why 2 was my favorite also, because like those insignificant missions that I did in Mass Effect 1 when they got reflected in Mass Effect 2, like saying like even in an email, just like saying like, "Hey, I remembered you from that."
Yeah, thanks for that thing you did.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, just that acknowledgement is like, oh wow, like this game's like the future. It's like this is amazing, and like we pretty much haven't had a game like that again.
Or your choices have consequences. Look at this.
This might be a big question, but what was your favorite? If you had to, I don't know, distill out a Mass Effect moment or a sequence, what would you say your favorite is?
I already mentioned it with Tali, Keyless Fly, all that shit.
The run to the beam.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe the run to the beam in 3.
That's pretty good.
That whole once when you're taking fire from all sides and everyone's fucking dying, but you have to make the mad sprint.
God.
Basically, if that game ended at the beam, it'd be perfect.
I think the Anderson's part, like Ash said, that's like the proper ending for that game. It's just like
talking to Anderson before the Star Child shows up. Yeah, that's the end of the game.
Yeah, that's a good ending.
Just set it up.
I also liked the when you see what's his name? Not Harbinger, the one Saren is indoctrinated by.
The what?
The Reaper that Saren.
Sovereign.
Sovereign,
yeah. Sovereign. When you speak to Sovereign.
That's pretty cool.
And he's like speaking through him, and you're like, bro, this is a lot for me. Right
The run to the beam, God. The Citadel party when you get to like after the whole the crazy shit that you do with the Shepard clone and blah blah blah, which was actually for a clone story and a DLC.
I know
it was pretty good.
It was so good.
After that, like saying, you're saying goodbye. Like this was obviously, saying goodbye. We're ending this. That entire thing was really good. Like I was in tears. Like it's too bad that Twitch doesn't save, for non-partners, that footage after so many days, and I didn't download it. But I'm literally on stream bawling because I had never played it before. Like I didn't play it when it came out. So right before Andromeda came out, I was like, hey, let's do this. And I played it, and I was in tears, like ugly crying on camera for this, because I'm like, oh my god, like how has this set of pixels and graphics managed to distill so much human emotion? It was incredible experience for me. Like that's why if you press a gun to my head, I will say Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC is the best Mass Effect game.
It's crazy.
Probably that is. It's very good.
Yeah, it's crazy thinking about that DLC too. Like because like it was a year after Mass Effect 3 came out when that came out, and like I was just like me replaying that game over and over again for that whole year, and just like doing the ending multiple times, and just like it's like just like this bitter feeling that I had for the just the way that game ended. Like not vitriol, but just like this doesn't make any sense. Even you put out an extended cut DLC, and that didn't really help either. You just made the Star Child say more words, and it's like, okay, cool. But like when that DLC just hit, it was just like I was like all about it. Like I couldn't stop talking about it. Like it was like essentially my game of the year that year. Was that DLC? It's just like you said, there's so much love and care, and just like just remembering and being with those characters again was just like one of the best feelings I ever had.
I really love Javik in Citadel. I love him anyway.
What did you say?
Javik, the Prothean.
Yeah.
Because he's so like incredulous about how stupid everybody is compared to him. And like when he's running around like trying to like solve the mystery, and he's just talking to like Hanar and shit. It's just he's fucking hilarious.
Javik's awesome.
He is. We talk a lot about endings, but the beginning of Mass Effect 2 is wild. That is a bitchin' way to start a game.
Yeah, when you're like, oh, by the way, you're dead.
Like you take these these hallmarks of the series that you've expected, from the one game before, like, the Normandy and your Shepherd and blah blah blah, and you fucking blow it up and like, holy shit, okay, this is how we're starting. All right.
And like, you wake up with the enemy and you're like, oh, everything you know about Cerberus has to be changed because we're your benefactor now.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a little bit jarring, actually. I don't know why they chose Cerberus for this. I'm like, maybe I'm glad they did. I don't know. That's a little weird. Because they went from this super uber, well, not super uber bad guy, but this like mildly annoying bad guy that you would poorly drive to Mako over these planets to go find their weird base and then get your ass kicked for 2 hours before you figure out this stupid combat cover system, and then they go to be like they're like the main movers and shakers in the next game. That's a little weird, but I think it worked, I guess.
I liked it because it's again another example of when a narrative, like, forcing conflict in the narrative, because the truth is the council doesn't care about human interests because humans aren't as important to the council. And like, that sounds like Tim just trying to like stoke animosity, like humanism over everyone else, like, and prejudice. But it's also in this case true because humans are being abducted and killed, and no one's investigating. The only person is the humanists, the like problematic humanists. And the truth is, someone has to do something about it. And right. Tim's like, well, this has something to do with those Reapers you kept telling the council exist, but don't believe you. So maybe the council is not for us, and maybe you can be for us. Maybe it's time for you to understand what I was saying was true. Like, they don't give a shit about you. They made you a Spectre as like a diversity hire. They don't give a shit about you, actually. Mm-hmm. And I like that angle because forcing us to appreciate an opinion from all sides is the best thing a narrative can do, especially a video game narrative where you can pick a narrative up and spin it around and interact with it in any way that you see fit. Or at least multiple ways. Not you're just reading a book and just, whatever the narrator is telling you is what it is. You can go ask somebody else a different opinion about it. And you do all across the ship. There's always a tension when you're bringing on aliens because they have to recognize, like, they're working with Cerberus. Cerberus is well known in the galaxy for being people who hate things that aren't human. Mm-hmm. So, your Mordins and your Rexes or Grunts, like, they live in this sort of weird place too. Like, what do these people really think about me? Even though we're all working together to save the galaxy, when this is over, what happens to me in my relationship with Cerberus? They know everything about me. I've benefited from them. Our resources are linked. Like, am I just playing into this hand? Like, I need to be suspicious. Which is like the exact opposite of the I guess the atmosphere of the original Normandy. I liked that it made you try to find heroism in people who you understand aren't really heroic. We do it all the time, in different narratives, but rarely do we play the opportunity to do it.
Right.
You watch Loki become like half a person in all the Thor movies, and like either fail or succeed. But like, we get to stare at Loki and try to make him be a good person in this game.
You are activating my trap. Don't do this. We're not gonna go there. We're gonna keep this on topic.
Do we have anything else to talk about as far as Mass Effect?
What do you think? Okay, what do you think? Where do you think, or where should the franchise go from here? Or what were you hoping to see this N7 day?
Like for the, so there's two things. Like as far as N7 day, I was hoping they would like do an HD collection. They're never going to do that. Or put it for a PS4 and Xbox One so I can replay those games and better visuals and whatever. But to answer your first question, what I was hoping kind of what Andromeda was going to be, I was hoping that was going to be like pretty much the first Contact War.
Oh God.
I wanted to like see what like Anderson went through, and I thought you would be someone who would like pretty much be there with Anderson to like like fight the Turians. I thought that would be like, that's why I always thought the next part of Mass Effect was going to be, because I know 3 was like the stick on the ground. We're not going past this part. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, if you're going to carry on this story, we can go back to a prequel and to see the first Contact War and how all this stuff happened, just like how everything happened. I was like really interested in that, but that didn't happen.
Which is a shame because Ryder Senior's a fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like he went through like the Charon Mass Relay. Like holy shit, he was awesome. That would have been a great place to take it. But yeah, I understand. I don't know what I want.
And it's funny because those stories, I'm never a person who wants those stories told, right? Like I think I like them as history that is malleable. Because once you play it, everything that happens there, unless treated with particular care, is canon. That's how it happened. I like knowing that everyone talks about these events with different opinions about them, and I don't really want to know what's true or not because I think that gives everything more depth and like a layer of mystery. But like I don't want to see what happens after 3.
Yeah,
through that story is over in my opinion, and there's really no value in continuing to tell it or try to bridge that gap in some other way, in some weird way. And I don't really at this point, like I don't think I want a Mass Effect Andromeda 2.
I'm not to say I'm quote unquote done with Mass Effect, but like I think that like Andromeda showed me that like I don't know, maybe the trilogy was just perfect for the way it was, even though it had a messy ending. It's just like it was, and I have so many great memories, and I replayed those games like so many fucking times.
Yeah, especially 2. I played 2 fucking ungodly amount of times.
Yeah, and 2 for sure.
Yeah, and like I'm at the point now where I pretty much play the same way every time, just because I love that story so much. I love these characters so much. I love just doing this over and over again. And that's enough for me, honestly. Like,
there's definitely stories in the past that I think would be worth playing, but I don't want to play it from a human perspective. I think there's so much history elsewhere worth playing.
That was another thing I was hoping for the next Max Effect game or whatever. Yeah, just like Dragon Age. I thought that would have been like an interesting twist to like, oh, I could be a Quarian, I could be a Solarian. Like,
right. And I think the best thing that happens to happen to Dragon Age Inquisition was being able to play as many races as possible. Really, like anyone can be, and every person you play. And they've done this already, but every character you play is like comes with his own baggage, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I would much rather, because I liked Inquisition well enough, but I don't know that I'm super excited for a sequel to that either. But if I had to pick one, I would much rather a Dragon Age sequel than a Mass Effect sequel, because I think there's plenty of story to still tell.
I think Dragon Age has great room for improvement. Like, and like, I just feel like that has more room to grow more than what Mass Effect does right now. Because like I said, three was so definitive as far as how it should end. Like, I don't think you really need to carry on from that.
Right, and it's like I like, in essence, or like in theory, I like how Kojima sort of filled in the blanks in his timeline and Metal Gear with some of these games, but I don't know that we need Metal Gears for Mass Effect. Like, I don't really need to know how Shepard got to this point, like how he became in the Marines. Like, it's not that important to me, and I don't even know that I care. Really, the story of the Third Civil War or the Second Civil War, sorry, or I mean, the First Contact War would be interesting to see, but I think I'd rather just watch a movie than play that game.
I can see that.
I can see that too.
There's lots of this universe I would love to begin to sort of absorb in ways I haven't. Like, there's plenty of Mass Effect books. Maybe I should start reading them, but I don't know that I need to play it on the Mass Effect game.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we can call it done. Like, put Citadel DLC right before the Run of the Beam. Have a conversation with Anderson, end the game, and we can just close that book.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What other good games have just ended like that, and we haven't gotten anything else from them because that we're just like definitively finished. I think Mass Effect might occupy that space because as I think about, trying to answer my own question, I don't care about what those motherfuckers are doing over in Andromeda. I just don't. I don't think there's anything they could do that would make me. Okay. Let's be real. If they make an Andromeda 2, I'm gonna play it just because. I don't think I would care enough about it the way that I was so rabid for Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3. I don't care. If they don't make another game, don't care. And we can just enshrine what we have in gold and leave it be and just let it rest.
And
I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said about this universe.
Yeah, and it's really like actually admirable for them to like have like a definitive ending and like having something that really can't like carry on like what Jared said with Kojima and like like Metal Gear Solid 5, like as good as that game is to play, like it fucks up the Metal Gear story.
It picks us a weird point to tell a story that changes the way the rest of the story is forever. And it's like, you didn't have to do this. Like we were fine. Like, and this doesn't necessarily hurt anything, but it doesn't help anything. Like, and I don't know that we need to continue to put ourselves in a position to ask this question about Mass Effect.
I think you're right.
And since I think the running narrative in Dragon Age is so sort of flimsy anyway, like you can do whatever, you can just tell whatever stories you want there.
I mean, we still got archdemons to deal with.
Right. Like they're always going to be archdemons apparently. And there's always going to be people trying to like cross between the veil. And like, this is just some bullshit that's always going to happen. And like, you can always tell pretty good stories in it apparently. So, it's almost like a comic book there. But I'm basically done trying to figure out like what's next for trying to find characters like I gave a shit about really.
Yeah,
Mass
pretty
Effect
much.
that I want to see more. I'm way interested in figuring out more about, and there's no story left to tell. You have to make up something completely new, and I don't know that I'm here for it.
God, it's so depressing.
It didn't have the richness of just like lore and world that's been built like Dragon Age does. Like there's so many things I want to know about Dragon Age. Like that there's plenty to know, but there's so much more to know. I chose to play a Qunari in Inquisition because I know nothing about them. And I love the way the world treats Qunari because they treat them like we treat Muslims almost. Like we don't get them. And we want to be tolerant, and we should be tolerant. And for the most part, the best among us are, and the best among the Qunari know how to integrate. The ones that don't, do not. And the worst of us treat the worst of them like they're all of them. And that's a great sort of allegory for everything that happens in like the real world. And I always wanted to, that's such an interesting concept to me, that you can tell like so many stories in. And I don't think Mass Effect has done that so well. They've made the characters in these races and the characters in these worlds so interesting. I want to know about them. But when I'm done knowing about them, I really don't care about the Asari homeland, really. The people who came from there that I'm interested in, I know about.
I don't know, man. I spent a lot of time in those codex for no fucking reason.
For sure. God.
And I spent a lot of time especially in 2, I read a lot of those, like, because all the history that got us to this point has been so interesting. Like how we moved from 2014 to flying through space with it, like after learning about, Element Zero and how we discovered the Mass Effect, how we went to Mars and found all these things. Like that's all really cool lore, like world building. It's just, I don't know that there's a game in that fills any of those gaps that I would be interested in playing.
Yeah. Well, we don't have anything else on Mass Effect. I'll wrap it up. Anybody have anything else to say to close it out?
Mass Effect was good, though.
Yeah. Really great trilogy.
I think Krios deserved better.
He did.
Yeah.
Andromeda got lost in the sauce.
And Andromeda is one of those things that's like I think about and I get so angry about.
It's just like, what do we do?
We were rooting for you. How dare you?
Like
People trusted you.
I was following that sword, man. Like don't worry about the stupid animations. It's gonna get better. Like don't worry about it, man. It's Mass Effect. It can't be bad.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Well, this has been Fresh Off the Dome. Thank you, Ashley and Jared, for joining me for this awesome conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
No problem.
So plug your shit. Jared, who are you? Where are you from?
Well, if you listen to this, you probably know where I'm from. Irrational Passions is among any other places. I write guides on the internet for the most part. And you'll be seeing me very soon.
Yes, I will.
For Extra Life this weekend. Me and Nabishin will join the rest of the Irrational Passions crew, as well as guests and friends, including Trevor Starkey and IGN freelancer Roger McCorney, and Kind of Funny's Greg Jen, Joey, and Portillo the Wiener Dog. We'll sub ourselves in a basement for several days and maybe return different after a 24-hour marathon of video game.
My name's Ash. You can find me on Twitter at TokenBlackChick. I write stuff about video games fairly often. It's lit.
Basically,
so
like,
come say
you
hi on
want
Twitter.
Blizzard lore, then just you found the right place.
If you want Blizzard lore, if you want Mass Effect or Dragon Age lore, if you want Final Fantasy lore, and you want to hear my opinion about Cowboy Bebop music, you're at your girl.
Yo, how good is the Real Folk Blues?
Don't start.
Have you both seen Blade Runner 2049?
Yes.
I haven't.
Did you like that sweet Bebop reference at the end?
Wait, oh, yes, like freaking dying on the steps like that? Are you kidding me?
Wah, wah, wah.
Sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I was sad. I was like, oh, I've seen this movie before.
It was 26 episodes. It was
like, oh, Spike.
Did you see this the animated short that Watanabe directed?
No, and I think Tony has actually linked it to me 30 times, and it's like, will you watch this, please? And I'm like, I don't watch anime. He's like, will you fucking watch this, please? I was like, all right, and I just never did. So I should probably do that soon.
Why are you like this? It is such a Watanabe joint. Like, he bleeds all over it. Like, oh my god. Oh, okay. Sorry, we don't have all day.
No, you're fine. And I've been your host, Brian Nabishin Jackson. You can follow me on Twitter at Nabishin186. That is Nabeshin 186. I'm on Irrational Passions. Check me out there. We just had a good one this week with just me and Jared just talking about video games. That was a great time, great discussions. A lot of people like that, like a crazy amount of people like that, apparently. So I don't know.
That's what happens when Tony and Scott run away.
Yeah. And Alice is sick.
Alice is just dying, apparently.
Yeah. But this has been Fresh Off the Dome. This was in 7 day. I felt like I wanted to talk about Mass Effect, and I got two great people to talk to about that. So it was pretty good. But that's it. That is it. All right. We're ending this. All right. Goodbye.